Good afternoon, traders. This is Christian from Tropic Trade Group, and this is your end of day market recap for Monday, March 17th. Happy St. Patrick's Day. I apologize for not having a green shirt on, something that I may change into later. Maybe have some green beer. Try to be a little bit festive today. And a lot of green on the screen today. So very thematic today in terms of what the market was doing. Risk disclaimer in front of you. Everything that we're going through is for information purposes only, not giving any advice or recommendations. Everything that I'm going over is for information purpose only. Please read the full risk disclaimer right there. So, averages today, and the small caps gained today and led today up 1.2%. I thought that that was notable. Also, the Dow was up 0.9 of a percentage point. S&P no slouch, up about 0.8 of a percentage point. And Qs, which were trailing and basically flat for a good portion of the day until we got to about 130 and saw some buy like programs hit the tape, some very strong price action which lifted the overall market, like right around 130 after we came out of that, after we came out of the very quiet lunchtime, which normally happens where there's not a lot of shares that trade, but boom, once we hit 130, the market really started to take off. Now, one thing I thought that was pretty interesting for the day was that breadth was strong all day today. Even with the market kind of pulling back a little bit after the open, breadth remained strong, and it did feel like there was some profit take. I don't want to say profit taking is probably not the right term, but it just felt like the Magnificent Seven names were not participating in today's move until we got to that 130 time, except for Netflix. Netflix got a nice upgrade today, but I kind of think that that's what the market is kind of moving towards a little bit. Also, I think in terms of what's on the radar for this week, Nvidia has their event, and that I believe Jensen will speak tomorrow, either at 1 or 2 o'clock Eastern. Sorry, I'll have to double check the time on that, but let's just say tomorrow afternoon for that. So that's going to be very interesting because for the AI trade, I think that Nvidia is not, even though they are a standalone company, they affect so many different groups, and we've really seen that AI trade unwind over the last month. I know that everybody thinks, oh, it's tariffs, and that I do believe was the catalyst, but I think also that there's many other things that were at play, not just tariffs. And that's why also it's the same thing if the market's going to recover, it doesn't necessarily mean like tariffs are going to be taken off. Like that's only one factor, and that only affects so many things too. So I don't want to dwell on that. I want to go over some of the price action today. It was kind of interesting when I went through charts and when I did my weekend video for members, I talked about where I was seeing strength in this market, and it was in a few different areas. And those mainly excelled today. And a couple of them are not your most exciting areas, but it is what it is. To say Berkshire Hathaway, which I'll get to that chart in a second, but insurance companies, they're acting really well. We don't see that many areas that are so close to new highs or breaking out, but insurance companies are one of them. And emerging markets, and definitely China was another one that we talked about. And I've been in position in both of these areas based on the relative strength. And then it's also a little bit of like commodities too. A few other areas participated today, like energy stocks. Both traditional and alternative or clean energy stocks did really well today. If you look at the PBW ETF, it was up 3.3% today. Solar was up 3.6% today. And where's your traditional? And XOP, which is the equally weighted energy ETF, exploration and gas, oil and gas exploration and production was up 2%. Some growth stocks did well too. Cyber stocks also is another area that started to do really well with that RBRK earnings report that we got on Thursday night, and a real big performance by that stock on Friday. I put on an Octa trade that really worked. In terms of the underperformers, you're going to see a couple things down here. So, like I said, tech did recover. Tech was down around lunchtime when I gave my midday note this morning. Could find that here. Let's bring up this, and where is that midday note? Yeah, so here's the midday note that I send out. And again, that note can be found at you could sign up for free, ttgtrading.substack.com. Of course, you could pay, it's just 20 bucks to see open positions. Also charts. I've been, there's been a lot of good charts I've been posting the last couple days in terms. Whenever I get into a trade, I will also post the chart. So if you want to see that, and that I send out that note every day at roughly around like 12:30 or 12:45, and you could see exactly the trades that I'm getting into and the trade setup with the chart. But here's what I was referring to is that this was I sent so again, this was around 12:30 today, but tech was down on the day, and consumer discretionary was down 0.6 of a percentage point too. So notice that came back. As I mentioned, that there was some buying in the afternoon today, so that you didn't. I don't think you had any sector that finished in the red today, but consumer discretionary showing some relative weakness. Again, Amazon and Tesla are the two big names in that ETF. So let's get to some charts. Here's Berkshire Hathaway. Like here's a good example. Like I put this trade on last week on the first green bar on the first move up here, and I was a little bit aggressive taking targets on Friday because I thought that you might see a rotation into growth a little bit. And this group actually did really well. And if you want to see what the overall group looks like, here's IAK, which is the one of the insurance ETFs. But it's the whole group that I'm seeing is doing really well. I talked about this weekend too. This was a post that I sent because this was a post I think I sent out on Saturday, and you could see, there's a lot of things like Travelers, AIG. These are names that have broken out on multiple time frames. So three different time frames, and then the other condition that I have in here is names that are not like way extended, right? So sometimes that leaves off some leaders that are, like I said, a little bit too extended, but you can kind of get a glimpse of just what's going on here. Right, you got China in here, JD.com, Yum China. Again, these, Baba's not in here because it's a little bit too extended. But you got China, which we're going to talk about next. Just a couple tech names and some and utilities. So that's to me quite interesting. But yeah, if you go through some of these names again, one of the names that I continue to like is Progressive. Look at Progressive breakout to new highs. So why am I talking about insurance companies first? You're probably like falling asleep in this video because I'm talking about this first because this is where I see the most amount of names that are breaking out to new highs. So and it also just gives you a sense like, I know so many, you know, retail traders tend to get stuck in high growth names, and then, probably many people are, waiting for them to come back up and to maybe exit those. But, you know, if you didn't, I unwound a lot of those positions that I had weeks ago, some of which, for loss, you just had to get out of them as they were moving very harshly to the downside. But now you can kind of reset and watch what's going on here. But look at the KWEB ETF. So this is also something that I've been in. Don't have a huge position in it, but just something where I can kind of weather the moves. But very nice, and that's another big theme. With Baba, I think Baba leading the group a bit because it's one of the biggest companies. But look, this broke through its value area. So I put this name on. I think it was in the beginning of March, right? When as we began to break above the 5 period moving average, I took some targets here. I added back a little bit in here, and so let's see if this wants to continue to go up to 160. And this was the idea that I put out. Speaking of Substack, I put that idea, and I talked about upside targets up to 160 and taking a target here at top of value. So that has worked out quite nicely. I've also been along a little bit of JD.com after earnings, and this took a little while. I didn't go crazy adding to this position, but I thought that this thing would have good earnings. But you could go through a number of names. Yum China is another one that looks very strong on the charts. We'll have to get through some overhead resistance, but looks pretty good. Baidu had a huge day. This one I'm not in, but look at the volume in Baidu today. It was up 90%. And this is one that I got involved in. I started to look at this name. This was going back to, I believe it was in January, and I started to see some call activity in this name. And it took a leg up. It kind of settled back in. and it had a big candle on earnings, and then it kind of settled back. So I got involved in this on Friday. Again, this is not a name that I'm not familiar. I'm not that familiar with. This was a $5 stock going back to December. But I took a position on because I thought that there was nice support here, and this name was up 12% today. So I got rewarded with that. And I actually took it. You can see what I did here. Here's my trading blotter for the day. But I took a target right off the bat in this, and then you could see I it sold off. So I added some back at 1237, and then I was able to take a target up to 2260. So this one worked out really well. You could see I dumped a couple positions today too. I put on Amazon last week, and I don't want to be bogged down with names that are just not working. And I talked a little in the first minute of this video, I talked about how just the Mag 7 names are just, they're not doing it. And I thought that this was a good buy the dip in Amazon and to support, but I just think that there's better things going on. So China is number one. I just want to bring back that K-Web chart because I think it's also important to look at the weekly chart here to see what this looks like in terms of this base. And ultimately, like this could, if it wants to continue, maybe it goes up to 44. That would still be way below those previous highs. So that's kind of what I'm holding out for. And again, we'll see if it continues to work. And I like the fact that it has just gotten above those recent highs. So that's China. Also, other emerging market areas. This is the wrong chart. EWZ is what I'm looking for, but Latin America is starting to really, look at the move in the Latin America areas of the market. We were looking at Chile last week, right? Because like I said, commodities have been strong. Chile made a nice move up 2.2%. I also like this EWS. Right, I've talked about that for a while. SE is a big component of that. I think this is also a good name to watch. Does not have the same momentum right now as China, but it did close above its value area for the month. Also, defense names have come back. Again, just looking at where there's strength right now in this market. Uh, XAR, which is the equally weighted aerospace defense group. Again, not the best. It's recovering from the lows, but I think if you go through some of these names, you'll find the leaders. For example, RTX is acting really well, and I actually got long some HWM. So, I got out of Amazon to make room, so I could go after some of these names that are acting a little bit better. Retail, I don't like, but a couple names in retail I like. For example, BJ Wholesale, right? Good earnings reaction, was acting really well before that, breaks out, pulls back right into the top of the value area for the month and bounces. So nice move today, up 2.9%. And what else was on my radar? Here's our watch list, by the way, so you could see how I construct this. You could see like Unum, again, not an exciting name, but look at Unum. I mean, that's a really nice looking move higher, and in a low volatility and big insurance name. Also, what did well today? Celsius, CELH. That's been on our watch list the last couple weeks. Watch what this does here, right at the top of the value area. So remember, this made a nice move on earnings, and then really like nothing. It gave it all back. Like a lot of names did, by the way, but found support in here at the 20-day moving average. Down the level I would watch is 29.26. I mentioned alternative energy had a good day. Oklo did okay today. I looked at this name last week. I did not pull the trigger on going long, but I thought it was up against some nice support. I think I put it in one of the notes from last week. And let's just go back to the watch list. What else did really well today? The gold miners, which I actually sold AEM. I put it back on the watch list just because I wanted to keep tabs. But gold is also acting really well. We'll see if that continues. I mentioned RBRK. That had some continuation to it. PGR, which we already talked about, SE. But a lot of participation and good breath today. So I'll leave it there, guys. I'll keep it somewhat short today's video so that you can go out and get some green beer. Happy St. Patty's Day. Nice participation today. Don't forget Fed meeting on Wednesday. And the last stock that I'll cover is Nvidia, because I think that this is, why am I, even though I don't have a position in Nvidia, why do I think that why am I bringing up Nvidia? Because it's going to be important for the AI group. Here's what happened the last time. I know I've covered this a couple times, but by the the rumor, sell the news, right? A tradition that is like no other on Wall Street. When you know that there's an event, what usually happens, and if people are watching it, you get to run up into the event, and here was the day of the last Nvidia conference. Try to go higher and got slammed down. So I don't think that the expectations are that high, because I think that everyone knows that they're not really slated to put out like a new chip or anything. But it's still made the same, buy the rumor type move. So here's a level that I would watch. If you want to try fading this tomorrow, if they don't come out with anything new, watch 119.20. All right, guys, have a great night. See you tomorrow.